The lights are on. Right now, wherever you are watching this. The screen in front of you, the bulb above your head, the city glowing outside your window. All of it is running on a system one man spent his entire life building. He never got rich from it. He never got famous for it. He died alone, in a hotel room, with nothing but pigeons for company and unpaid bills on the desk beside him. And the man who stole his legacy? He died one of the most celebrated figures in American history. This is not a story about electricity. This is a story about what happens when genius meets greed, when vision meets violence, when one man tries to give the world everything, and another man decides that everything should cost a price. His name was Nikola Tesla, and the man who destroyed him was Thomas Alva Edison. Nikola Tesla was born on July 10, 1856, in the tiny Serbian village of Smiljan during a violent lightning storm, as if the sky itself was announcing something. His mother was an inventor who built small mechanical tools from memory despite never learning to read. His father was a priest who wanted his son to follow him into the clergy. Tesla had other plans. From childhood, his mind operated differently. He experienced vivid visions, flashes of blinding light accompanied by images of machines that did not yet exist. He could visualize entire mechanical systems in complete detail, rotate them in his mind, test them, find their flaws, all without touching a single tool. His professors at the Austrian Polytechnic in Graz were alarmed by his intensity. One wrote to his father warning that Tesla's obsessive work ethic would kill him before it saved him. It didn't kill him. It built the modern world. By 1882, walking through a park in Budapest, Tesla saw it, fully formed, complete, as clear as any physical object. A rotating magnetic field. A motor powered by alternating current. He dropped to his knees and drew the design in the dirt with a stick. That sketch would one day power every city on Earth. In 1884, Tesla arrived in New York City with 4 cents in his pocket, a letter of recommendation, and a mind that held the electrical future of civilization. The letter was addressed to Thomas Edison. It reportedly said, "I know 2 great men. One is you. The other is this young man." Edison hired him, and for exactly 1 moment, it looked like destiny had placed the 2 greatest electrical minds of the age in the same room. It had not. It had placed a creator and a predator in the same room, and it would take Tesla years to understand which one he was dealing with. Edison was not an inventor in the way history remembers him. He was a businessman who wore the costume of an inventor. He worked by brute force, running thousands of failed experiments until something worked, then patenting the result. He famously declared that genius was 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. He meant it as a philosophy. It was also a confession. Tesla was his opposite in every measurable way. Quiet where Edison was loud. Elegant where Edison was blunt. Tesla solved problems in his mind before entering the laboratory. He spoke 8 languages. He dressed immaculately. He believed in ideas the way other men believed in God. Edison was the hammer. Tesla was the scalpel. And hammers, as history would show, have very little patience for scalpels. Tesla went to work inside Edison's laboratory with the full force of his extraordinary mind. Edison's direct current generators were inefficient, expensive, and deeply flawed. They lost enormous power over short distances and required a new power station approximately every city block. Tesla told Edison he could redesign them, fix the core problems, make them perform in ways Edison's engineers had never managed. Edison made him a promise. "Fix the machines, and I will pay you $50,000. Tesla worked for months. He redesigned every generator. He delivered exactly what was promised and more. When he went to collect his payment, Edison laughed. "Tesla," he said, "you don't understand our American humor." $50,000. Dissolved into a joke. A handshake worth nothing. Tesla resigned immediately. He walked out of Edison's laboratory and into the streets of New York with his dignity intact and almost nothing else. For the months that followed, the man who held the blueprints for the modern electrical grid dug ditches to survive. He shoveled dirt in the streets of the city he would one day illuminate. He was humiliated. He was furious. And deep inside his mind, The rotating magnetic field was still spinning. By 1887, Tesla had new investors and a new laboratory. He filed his patents for the alternating current induction motor and transformer system. George Westinghouse, the most consequential industrialist of the age, saw the patents and understood immediately what they represented. Westinghouse paid Tesla $60,000 for his patents and offered royalties on every unit of power generated. It was a fortune, and it lit a fire under Edison that would burn for years. Because Edison had built his entire empire on direct current. His power stations were already installed across New York. His investors were already committed. His name was already synonymous with electrical power in the mind of the American public. If alternating current won, and it would win, because it was simply superior, Edison stood to lose not just money, but identity. His place in history. Everything. Thomas Edison was not a man who accepted loss gracefully. What followed became known as the War of Currents. And it was one of the ugliest episodes in the history of American industry. Edison launched a public fear campaign of extraordinary ruthlessness. His employees, acting on his direction, began publicly electrocuting animals using alternating current. Dogs, calves, horses. The message was delivered without subtlety. AC electricity kills. This is what Tesla and Westinghouse want to put in your home. He lobbied state governments to use alternating current in the electric chair, calculating, brilliantly and grotesquely, that if the public associated Tesla's current with the death penalty, they would never accept it in their homes. On August 6, 1890, a man named William Kemmler was executed using a Westinghouse generator. Edison's allies tried to rebrand the process itself. They wanted the public to say a man had been Westinghoused. And in 1903, Edison's company filmed the public electrocution of a circus elephant named Topsy at Coney Island using alternating current. The footage was distributed and shown publicly. A deliberate spectacle of cruelty, designed entirely to terrorize the American public away from Tesla's invention. Not because Tesla was wrong, because Tesla was right, and that threatened everything. But alternating current was too good to kill with propaganda. The laws of physics are not subject to public relations campaigns. In 1893, Westinghouse and Tesla won the contract to illuminate the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, the greatest World's Fair in American history. 200,000 electric lights, powered entirely by alternating current, lit the fairgrounds like a city from the future. Millions of people walked through those gates and saw tomorrow. Then, in 1895, Tesla and Westinghouse built the first major hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls. Alternating current was transmitted 26 miles to the city of Buffalo, lighting it completely from a single generating station. The war of currents was over. Alternating current had won. Edison's own company quietly adopted Tesla's system. The corporation he founded became General Electric, running, without public acknowledgement, on the very technology Edison had spent years trying to destroy. He never admitted it. Not publicly. Not once. And Tesla received almost none of the credit his victory deserved. Winning the war did not save Tesla. His mind had already moved far beyond it. He invented the Tesla coil in 1891, a resonant transformer capable of generating extraordinary high-voltage electricity and transmitting energy without wires. Standing in his laboratory surrounded by enormous artificial lightning bolts he had produced himself, Tesla looked less like a scientist and more like something from another dimension entirely. He pioneered fundamental principles of radio transmission, work that Guglielmo Marconi patented using Tesla's own ideas, backed by connections to Edison's network. Marconi received the Nobel Prize for Radio in 1909. The U.S. Supreme Court did not restore Tesla's radio patent priority until 1943, the year Tesla died, decades too late for him to benefit from it. He conceived of radar, of X-ray technology, of remote control, of robotics, of vertical takeoff aircraft. He described principles underlying what would become the Internet, the smartphone, wireless energy transfer. His mind was not simply ahead of its time. It was ahead of several times simultaneously. But his greatest dream and his greatest wound was the Wardenclyffe Tower. On Long Island in 1901, Tesla began construction of a massive transmission tower intended to be the first node in a global wireless energy network. His vision: electricity transmitted freely through the Earth itself, available to anyone, anywhere on the planet, at no cost. No wires, no meters, no bills. Free power for all of humanity. His financial backer was J.P. Morgan, the most powerful banker in America. When Morgan finally understood what Tesla was actually building, he asked one question: where do we put the meter? Tesla told him there would be no meter. The energy would be free. Morgan withdrew his funding immediately. Construction stopped. Debts mounted. The tower was demolished and sold for scrap metal to pay bills Tesla could no longer cover. His laboratory was gone. His dream was gone. And the man who had harnessed Niagara Falls began the long, slow fall toward a hotel room and a flock of pigeons. He moved through a series of New York hotels, each one a little more modest than the last, the bills a little harder to pay. His wife had died years earlier. His investors had stopped returning letters. His press coverage had shifted from wizard to eccentric, from visionary to madman. He ate alone. He walked the streets at night. He fed pigeons in Bryant Park with a tenderness that broke the hearts of the few people who still knew him. He claimed to have formed a particular bond with one white pigeon, saying she loved him as he loved her, and that when she died, something inside him died with it. Perhaps something did. On January 7, 1943, Nikola Tesla was found dead in room 3327 of the New Yorker Hotel. He was 86 years old. He had been dead for 2 days before anyone checked. The cause of death was coronary thrombosis. Within hours, agents from the U.S. Office of Alien Property seized every paper, every notebook, every document in his room. Much of what they took has never been fully released to the public. The man died alone, and the government still feared what was in his notebooks. Thomas Edison died in 1931, 12 years before Tesla, surrounded by wealth, medals, honorary degrees, and the unquestioning adoration of an entire nation. President Hoover asked Americans to dim their electric lights for 1 minute in his honor. Newspapers called him the greatest American who ever lived. The contrast is almost unbearable. 2 men. One died a national hero. The other died alone in a hotel room. The difference between them was not talent. It was not the quality of their ideas. The difference was that one man understood power, financial power, media power, the power to shape what the public believed, and used all of it without mercy. The other believed that truth was enough. It wasn't. It never is, by itself. But truth has a way of surviving. The entire global electrical grid runs on alternating current, Tesla's system. Every electric motor in every factory, every appliance, every electric vehicle traces back to Tesla's induction motor. The principles behind MRI machines, wireless communication, radio, remote control, all of them descend from his work. In 1960, the international scientific community named the SI unit of magnetic flux density the Tesla. In 2003, an electric vehicle company chose his name for their brand, not Edison's. Tesla's. Because even 100 years later, the world knew whose vision had actually built it. There is a question that outlasts this story. A question that matters more now than it ever has. What did we lose? Not just what Tesla accomplished, but what he might have accomplished if the world had supported him instead of broken him. If Wardenclyffe had been completed. If free wireless energy had been allowed to exist instead of buried by men who needed a meter. We will never know. And that unknowing is the most haunting part of everything. Tesla once said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I have really worked, is mine." He was right. He just couldn't have known how long he would have to wait, or that he would not live to see it arrive. The lights you are watching this by run on his current. The device in your hand traces back to his mind. The world you live in was built, in ways most people will never know, by a man who died alone with nothing. He gave humanity the power to light up the darkness, and humanity left him to die in it. Remember his name. Nikola Tesla, the man Edison destroyed, the man the world forgot, the man who lit it anyway.